GM. This is Web3 Writers by Vagabond Media. I am CD Demisio, your host, joined today by some of our friends from Paged Out, by my amazing co-host, Riona Morgan. Riona, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I am so great. The sun is shining. It's beautiful here in Montana. And I'm so happy to be here with everyone. Hello. Hello. Hello.
The sun is shining in Montana and in Hawaii. Actually, we've got a little bit of overcast, but we've had some heavy rain here the past week or so. It's been sort of amazing. Like one day, there were people actually surfing on the street. They were paddling surfboards on the street in Waikiki, which is just crazy. They were like on a surfboard paddling down the street because we had so much water in the streets. It was a really sort of fun thing. I went out and splashed in puddles. Hey, I see Odd Writings is here. We're going to get him up on the stage as well. Riona, what has been on your radar this week? What have you been checking out? What have you been looking at?
Well, I got something very, very cool in the mail, and I'm going to post it in the chat and then pin it so that everybody can see it. But it is something that we really want Odd Writings to talk about. So I think he just requested to be a speaker. So let's get him doing this. And then I will share this photo here really quick and we can talk about it.
Okay, so Riona, whatever you were talking about, like when I asked to be invited to be a speaker and then I become a speaker, there's a gap of 5 seconds or 10 seconds. So whatever you were referring to was in that gap. I have no idea what you're talking about. So what am I supposed to be talking about?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry about that. I just posted a picture in the chat and it's something that I received in the mail. And so I'll share it up in the nest as well. And I just want to give a big shout out and say this is so amazing. And I'm so excited for you. And I'm so proud of you. This is so wonderful. So have you been able to see it yet? Can you see it in the chat?
Yes, I just saw it. Oh, and yes, I'm very happy. Thank you for buying my book. I'm happy. Yeah, it's been out for a little bit, and I'm especially happy that you got the hardcover version because that's kind of I think it came out a lot better than the other versions. I still need to make an NFT book version of it. But each of the images within it some of the images within it are themselves NFTs. So it's kind of a mix between the two. But that's great. Thank you so much for buying it. That makes me feel really good.
You are so welcome. And I don't know if many of you know, but we've decided that we are going to travel a lot next year. And so our only daughter who's left at home is going to be an 8th grader, and we're going to spend a ton of time traveling. And so I used your book to teach her a little bit about palindrome poetry. And so that was so exciting. And I was so excited about that. And so I know that that's not NFT yet, but we're working on it. And I just wanted to say the teacher in me, the English teacher in me, the writer in me, all of that was so excited that I got to share that with my daughter. So thank you so much. And so that was like the big news these last couple of days is that just came in the mail and I was just so over the moon about it.
Wow, that's awesome. That's so. I don't really know. I don't know what to say. That just makes me feel. That makes me feel wonderful. And I've been in a funk for the last couple of days, so that's actually an extra boost for me. So thank you so much.
Yay. I love that. I love that. So I just wanted to say, if you are new to the group or if you're listening now or in the future, um, this is what we love most about being able to be in this group with each other is that we support each other and we uplift each other. And this is just, I'm so happy that I got to give you that feeling of, um, fulfillment as a writer. And so yay. So thanks, CD. I really wanted, it was on my list for, I really want to talk about it, but it worked out perfectly. So thank you.
You don't have to thank me. Thank you. And I just want to point out for those listening to the podcast version later that the book is My cat breaks into vowels. And, this is written by our friend who you just heard, Odd Writings, who is sometimes known in the real world as George Pastana. And it's a one-word unit palindrome poem. And the cover of that, George, looks so cool. It is such a great cover. Is that your cat?
No, it's AI generated. I think it's got 3 paws if you look carefully.
I didn't notice that, but if that was your cat and it had 3 paws, it would not surprise me. You seem like you would have a 3-pawed cat.
That would be kind of nice. I've seen quite a few of 3-legged cats, the ones that get their feet amputated or whatever. But yeah, all the graphics in the book, they're all AI generated. I don't have any kind of photographic skills. I can't make photos myself. I tried to make these photorealistic, but at the same time surrealistic. And so they try to complement the text somewhat.
Well, where can people order it? That's the next question. Is it on Amazon?
Yeah, right now it's solely on Amazon. There's a link. I'll put the link in the chat, and you can get a hardcover version, a softcover version, or an ebook version. But the images themselves they're okay. So what it is there are a few QR codes within the book, and so they link to some of my blog entries, and those blog entries then link to some NFT marketplaces where you can, if you want that image, then you can get it there. The reason I had to do that indirect thing is because Amazon at first I had direct links to the NFT marketplaces, and Amazon doesn't like those. It's like no, you got to take those out. It's some policy they have. So I had to do this extra step. Yeah, I was hoping to have a QR code for every single image, but I quickly ran behind because for each image I wanted to have a little animate thing. So you go to the QR code and you see the image, and I made a video again using artificial intelligence that would animate the image and kind of make it morph and things. I was able to do that for 5 images. But there's 75 images in the book, and after by the time I got to the fifth video, I realized I was falling way behind, and this wasn't going to work. So I had to modify the plan for the book. So there's a mix there between NFT and reading, but ideally I want to put it on ReadMe Books, and just so you can get the whole book as an NFT, as well as the other options.
Amazing. This is one of many reasons why I love hosting this space, why I love that we have this community, because we get to celebrate each other's wins, we get to experience each other's work and the highs and the lows and things like that. It's amazing. And I got to say, there is someone else who's on the stage with us that has some pretty big news. I think pretty big news that all of you are probably going to want to hear and take part in if you haven't already. And that is the managing editor of Vagabond Magazine, E.R. Donaldson. And he has something cool going on. E.R., what's up?
Hey, you guys hear me okay? I'm on the road driving.
We got you, buddy.
Yep. You got me? All right, awesome. So, coming off of all the fun that we had with friends who write, I've been working with our counterparts over at Twigtails, and they approached me with an opportunity. They are currently running a 4-week contest with their own $1,000 prize pool for the writers who earn the most time points and the readers who earn the most time points. There's various cash prizes available if you go to their territory on T2 World. That's the Twigtails territory on T2 World. In addition to that, as one of the partners for Twigtails, Mythic North Press, my imprint, is running its own contest with its own $600 prize pool. $150 are going to be given out each week, pending submissions, of course, for individuals who post on the platform works of fiction set in my space opera, cyberpunk, space fantasy universe called the Nethriverse. The contest is called Enter the Nethriverse. The judges from Mythic North Press will be selecting one piece each week to be recognized and receive that cash prize. Down the line, too, I want to see if there's a lot of interest in this universe, if some of the individuals who craft some stories might be interested in some kind of anthology. So there may be a chance to get paid twice, actually, for the work that you do in these next 4 weeks. So I encourage all of you to head over to T2 World. Check if you just go over to my Twitter page. I've been tweeting about it recently. I post something up in the nest, but again, driving. And check it out. Definitely what I think is a unique opportunity. I'd love to see your creative minds flex your take on some of the worlds that I've built, and we'll go from there.
It's so cool. And we got you on the nest, man. We got you up there. I think I got you actually a couple of times, and maybe Rihanna got you as well. So, hey,
Awesome.
what I'm wondering, ER, is can you tell us? So I'm familiar with the Nethriverse because of Soul Type, your works that you publish there, and also the recent Friends Who Write contest. I have to say that's so slow, by the way, Friends Who Write, because I always want to say Friends That Write, which is FTW, and that's wrong. But can you tell us about the Nethriverse and maybe explain a little bit about these worlds that you've created so that people have an idea of what they might be jumping into?
Yeah, for sure. So high level pitch, it's Star Wars meets Blade Runner as run by Heavy Metal Magazine. It's a dark, gritty space fantasy universe that is inspired by games like Mass Effect, Halo, where basically humanity is thrown out of the colonizing a galaxy full of different extraterrestrial political entities that are vying for control, as entities are wont to do. There's actually a lot of different microcosms in this universe. One of the things that I did, for better or worse, when I created it, is I kind of took an everything in the kitchen sink approach, and there's aspects related to religion and magic. It's called something different, but if you check out the codex that is posted on the contest page, it'll explain more. And it's very much a magic versus technology kind of universe. The kind of the core thesis is that gods and machines are attempting to take over the universe, and humanity and the other sapient species that are out in this universe are kind of caught in the middle. But heavy cyberpunk elements in there, mega corporations. There's a little bit, if you want to focus on bounty hunting, is actually kind of close to what the original series was about. But one of the things that I liked is there is a lot of room for you to explore. In the codex, I outlined basically what the existing universe looks like that's been explored, but then I wanted to open it up to the possibility that somebody can go, hey, this reminds me of this work. I wonder if I could do my own take on it this way, and then give them that ability to do so.
It's amazing, dude. I love it. Like, I used to play Shadowrun, and you've taken me right to it with your description. The megacorps, space, and bounty hunters. Super cool stuff.
Golly, I am so excited about this. I love how whenever you open up something for writing, because I've written with you previously, it always pushes the boundaries of the genre that I write in or the writer that I am, and I love it so much. I'm so excited. Now, is there a particular word count each week? Is there a particular word count overall? Like, what are you envisioning?
Nope, no word count each week. It is entirely craft the story that is on your heart. Just because of the nature of the platform, like major long form works, I'm talking like novelettes, novellas, would be better done, I think, in multiple posts. That was something I did with the piece I did for Friends Who Write, is broke it up into 4 parts. It's not, we're not limited to 1 submission per week. You don't even have to do more than 1 submission. If you do a serialized story, the whole thing will be considered as a block for the purpose of the contest. And then if you do something in week 1 and it's not selected, it's still in the prize pool for weeks 2, 3, and 4. So it's an ever-growing proposition. I really just want to see what kind of works out there. It can be a work of flash fiction. It can be a short story, a medium-length story, whatever fits your style.
Amazing. Like this, and I gotta say, like, what's pretty fun is these sorts of collaborations. Like, some of us have been doing these for a while. Like, little bit of inside information here. E.R. Donaldson, Rihanna Morgan, and myself, we've got our 3 entities together, are working on an anthology called Future World, which comes from, the first look at Future World came from Notes from Nowhere, which looked at the mutual nation of Hawaii 300 years in the future. But then a couple of years ago, we gathered a bunch of writers from the Web3 space, and we said, would you guys like to write about the rest of this world in Future World? And E.R. Donaldson, Rihanna Morgan, T. Dylan Daniel, there are lots of people that like stepped up and said, hey, we want to write about this. So we've got Quanta wrote something, an amazing story in there. And so we are putting the finishing touches on that right now. And, this sort of collaboration where we can mutually define new worlds, create new characters, have our characters interact, create different bizarre things. It's so exciting. I can't wait to write for Netroverse and have something in there, ER. It's so exciting that you're doing this. I'm looking forward to Future World too, but right now Netroverse seems like it is going hardcore and I love it.
Hey, thanks, CD. I'm really looking forward to what everybody's putting out. Looking forward to seeing a story from you and Riona. Hopefully, no pressure, guys, but I might cry if I don't.
You might cry if you don't. Oh my goodness. I guess, CD, we better get to work.
Definitely got to get to work. Now, I want to say, like, when we all 3 have very different writing styles, and we write about very different things. Riona is first and foremost a romance writer. ER is like a hardcore sci-fi guy. I'm more of like a tongue-in-cheek sort of speculative fiction guy. So it's fun that our stuff has intersected and interacted, and to talk about Future World again, one of the interesting things to me is like in that you have witches, you have like cyberpunks, you have Yeti like talking, weird things. So all that stuff is fun. And I should point out too that one of the stories that appears in Future World was in a Mythic North anthology. ER's imprint, and it was super fun to have that collaboration with a bunch of different writers and to put things together and create a book like that's sitting on my shelf in a place of honor. That book. So anyway, this is super fun. I see we've got Cryptoversal here. We had you up on the stage for a minute. We're going to invite you back up here so you can tell us what's going on in Cryptoversal's world. Also, Indefatigable. I know you're shy, but we'd love to get you back up here too, because we love hearing from you always about what's going on. Cryptoversal, the mic is yours, my friend.
Hey, CD, how's it going?
Oh,
Yeah, I've been just having a little fun with alternate language, alternate alphabets for English. I've been doing mostly social media posts that look all mysterious because they're not encoded and they're not a foreign language, but they are decipherable through alternate lesser known alphabets of English.
I've seen a couple of those on Farcaster, and I thought that they were just like pure code, but that's interesting. So tell us more.
The one I'm using most is called Shavian. It is the legacy of George Bernard Shaw, the Irish playwright. And he was an advocate of simplified spelling, and in his will, he left a sum of money for the development of an alphabet for English that would be, instead of taking the Roman alphabet, which was not ever meant for English, English not being a Romance language, to have something that was based on the phonemes and the spellings that are actually used in spoken English, getting rid of silent letters, getting rid of double letters, and weird um, diphthongs and things that make English such a confusing language to write for all of us who were learning to write as children, and also for non-native speakers. And a number of years after his death, they were using his bequeathment to develop this language, this alphabet, this ornithography. And
That's so weird.
it's a
It's
little
so weird.
obscure. Yeah, yeah. I had never heard of it until very recently, and I'm just enjoying the hell out of it because it's a lot of fun to just to write something that's written in English, and have it be, you have to be in the know of what the how these glyphs map onto sounds, to read it. But it's just straightforward reading, if you're using the right alphabet.
So how many characters are in this alphabet?
There are 46 uh, letters in the alphabet, or glyphs in the alphabet. So each one is a unique sound, and all the sounds in English are covered.
Wow. So
All the
okay, so
consonants, all the vowels.
so is there like a, the th sound, is that like one glyph?
There's a th sound. There's a voiced th sound and an unvoiced th sound. So there's actually two th sounds in English, and they're represented by two glyphs that one is flipped from the other one, so you can tell them apart.
I'm super fascinated by this, but I got to be honest with you, Cryptoversal. This sounds like the type of homework that I hated doing in class.
This is actually the kind of thing I would probably be doodling in the margins during class, and passing along to friends, and um, it really seems like, if you're going to come up with a secret code, it's, use something that's actually not a secret code. It's not a code, because it's just like writing with a different alphabet.
I mean, I love linguistics, but the memorization of the different characters, that sounds like the part that would be hard for me. But maybe it wouldn't be so hard. I'm gonna have to dig into it. It's super cool. I'm so. Are you gonna like write a book in this? What are your plans?
No plans, just experimentation for now, and just putting it out. It's one of those things where you put it out into the world and see what happens.
I
So
like those.
get a bunch of us who are using it. We can start writing to each other, for each other, and then get the writing out into the world, and maybe make a difference in how people write.
I was. It's early, and I was gonna say, hey, could you read us something in this language?
Of course,
I'm
it
glad
would,
this.
if he did that, it would sound just like English, of course.
It would sound like English, exactly. And I'd be curious if you could write palindromes in it, George. I don't know, because it's.
I was just thinking about that, as soon as you mentioned it, and I was also thinking, because of the 46 glyphs that you said, I think there were 46.
Yeah.
A lot of them are, what currently we have th, the voiced and the unvoiced or whatever. Uh, Reminds me a little bit of Japanese. I took a course on Japanese once, and at least on the katakana script, I think it is. There's a couple different scripts. I think it's the katakana one, where every glyph is like a consonant and a vowel. So
Yeah.
like ah is one thing, and pa is something else, and pe is something else. And so that's part of the reason why, when people come up with haikus and they say, oh, you got to have 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables. And the reason that's not accurate is because in Japan, what they consider, they count syllables differently than we do. And so it causes all kinds of confusion when you go back and forth. But yeah, that's fascinating. I'm going to look more into that language. I wasn't aware of it. I knew there were a number of languages that have been invented over the years. I think Korean was actually invented by the king at one point.
It was, yes.
Yeah, but there's a lot of other ones that have flopped that are kind of like, the planets that they used to have a new planet, but then they got so many of them that they're like, okay, well, these are just asteroids or whatever. So and so if you look in the history now, you can find out about all these things that used to be planets but are no longer planets. And it's kind of similar with languages. There's a number of languages that people have tried to invent from the beginning that make more sense, and then they just kind of flopped. And I was not aware of George Bernard Shaw, of his one. That's really cool.
Yeah. Well, and there's there's languages like conlangs, like when you come up with a language from scratch, or derived from alternate languages, like Esperanto is derived from a variety of languages, and then there's this, which is an alternate orthography specifically for English in this case.
Testing 1 2 3.
We can hear you, Andy. We hear you.
Oh.
How are you?
Hi, I love this talk about alphabets. It's also an interesting coincidence that the Hindi has, which I learned to read phonetically. So like I could read it out loud, parsing the glyphs, but it would have no context of the vocabulary. And like a friend of mine, we used to write messages to each other in English written in Hindi characters. Also has distinctive TH sounds, also has 46 or 33 consonants and 13 vowel symbols or configurations. This is really kind of an interesting coincidence.
Very cool. Yeah, I know. In Hindi they have the I can't distinguish the two sounds between the d and the th, or but that's it's fascinating how different languages have different sounds that native speakers can distinguish between. And like in English, we have the R sound and the L sound, and speakers of Japanese have a hard time distinguishing between the two. And designing an alphabet for a specific language it requires designing it for the sounds within the language. And then when you have something like English that has so many different accents all over the world, is a bit of a challenge that some vowel sounds sound different depending where you are in the world.
Oh, that's really weird. So yeah, you would have to if you were in North Carolina mountain country versus, Michigan or California, you would have a completely different way of saying them.
Yeah.
It always comes down to the diphthongs. Those pesky diphthongs.
That's a great quote. I want to use that. It always comes down to the diphthongs.
Diphthong always sounds to me like an insult word. Like you're such a diphthong. But then again, ornithology always sounds to me like the study of birds. So I don't know. Isn't that ornithology? Wait, what's the difference? Ornithology and ornithography?
I think ornithology is birds and ornithography is writing.
No, orthography is writing, or correct writing. Ortho meaning straight, from the Greek. Aha, and grapheme meaning right.
George, we lost you, but we are so happy to have you here. Tell us that ornithology, ornithography roots again.
No, just orthography. or ortho, that what we consider ortho is Greek meaning straight. Uh, uh, and so orthography is correct writing, basically, correct spelling, in other words.
Mm.
Oh yeah, I guess that is different than orna, which I don't know what the word means, but that would be the bird one. Okay, so word nerds, word nerd alert. Boop, boop, word nerds, word nerds, word nerds. Hey, speaking of word nerds, yesterday, Indefatigable and I fell into something that it was not the first time that we've fallen into that. Also, Phil Lawson was with us, sort of like refereeing, I guess. He's taken part, but mostly it was just Indy and me. And so here's something that has come up again and again. Books are changing and they are becoming something very different than they've ever been before. And not just in the sense of digital books, not just in the sense of audio books, but in the sense of embedded content and, abilities and things like that. And we've often talked about the way that new books are going to be different from the books that we all know and love, the bound ones or even the scrolls of ancient times. So yesterday, Indy and I, we're sort of falling into this conversation of trying to define a new word for books, and I'd like to open it up to all of you guys. My favorite of this is XCROLL. It's like scroll, but spelled kind of weird. But what would you guys call a new book, a new form of book? And just open up your mics. And if you're not on stage, throw your hand up and we'll get you up here.
I'm going to add one more thing, CD, that this would cover codexes of all kinds plus interactivity. So it could be a zine, a newspaper, self-made book pasted together with yarn. Yeah. And all of those in digital form and in the metaverse. Yeah. Easy naming.
Digital yarn.
Yarns is one we did not talk about, but we should put that on the list. Yarn.
That's, you said it, and I was like, "Whoa, digital yarn! That's kind of awesome."
And you could shorten that to darn, which of course has a sewing meaning as well as like, dang it.
Oh my God, we are such in the right place for this conversation. Let's do it.
I have been working on this, I don't know, for years now. Like years ago, Paige Dow, we started talking about what could we possibly call book, what could we possibly call the manuscript, what could we possibly call. And so I'm actually going through my notes right now, seeing if I can find, because I had like 15 different things. And so let's skip over me and see if we can come back to me in a minute, because I'm going to see if I can find my notes on this, because this is super fascinating and I love it. And I also love the word artistry of all of this, and so this is so exciting. Okay, so skip on over me and jump around.
Okay, here's a couple of the other ones that I liked. So I've always liked the word omnibook. Now there was like a 1980s sort of computer called an omnibook that sort of put a scuttle in that, but I still like the word omnibook and maybe some way of putting that together. George, I really want to hear your thoughts on this. And Indy, I want you to share some of the other ones that you shared in the chat yesterday we were having.
Well, I'm wondering, I'm thinking, I mean, besides what we talked about, yarn and darn or whatever, I'm wondering if this new word should have an etymological origin at all. Because, when we have new words nowadays, especially for companies, it's yipe and yelp, and well, I guess yelp maybe has a meaning behind it, but it's kind of made up words with no etymology. I'm wondering if maybe that would be appropriate, because it would be in this age of mixing different things together. But then, I don't know, etymologies are always fun, so it'd be kind of neat to make your own etymology. I would definitely make it a bastardized etymology, meaning a lot of the purists would say, oh, to make an etymology, they all should belong to the same language, right? So if you're going to make a Latin word, use Latin roots. Don't take a Greek root and mix it with Latin and then mix that with, old German or something like that. Those are called, I think they're called bastardized. Probably not. I'm probably misremembering it, but because of the nature of a book that can be video, audio, can all these different things. If we do have an etymology behind it, I would definitely try to bastardize it on purpose.
All right. Bastardization is an option. I'm going to give some of the, really quick, I'm going to run through some of the things we came up with. Hopefully, yeah. All right. Number one was Verses, which was Phil of Austin's contribution, which I really dug. We kind of thought it was cool. And then I one-upped Verses with Nuggets. Obviously, scatological is not everybody's cup of tea, but whatever. And then we had Tomes, which I think was CD's suggestion. And then it gets crazier. We have Bytes, Works, WERKS, WERX, Idea Houses, Compendium, Facts, Flax, Flipper, and Flippers. Etherbook, AETHER, hitting that, what is it, Old English, AE awesomeness. We have Keepers and Keepers, some retro Trapper Keeper references. We have even more, and it gets crazy. We have Zines and Quills, and the Dr. Seuss tribute, a Zook, ZOOK. Somehow we have a Skatzookzine or Bazooka. Anyway, moving along, Stacks, Gadzooks. And then we have another Frags, Scripts, Finds, Flutter, Flights, Clusters, Fragments, Frags, Cuts. I like Cuts personally. Fits, Curls, and Gems. We got stuck on Gems for a while. This is horrible. Why am I doing this? Then we have even more. Blocks, Treats, Gifts, Beeper, Beeps, Skein, Skein, Reams, Flaps, Cards, Goodies, Besties, Tears, Rips, Rivets, Lugs, Animas, Flows, Figs, Refs, Box or Boxes, Headings, Totes, Ephemera, Artifacts, Finds, Digs, Arc or Arcs. I'm kind of partial to Arc as a thing. Teams, Drops. Just use drops. Just go straight NFT or mic drop. No one liked that, by the way. All right, and then we're coming around the final stretch here. Caps and capsules, and I think my final contribution today was reads. Reads as a noun, and real reads, which is kind of sad, to be quite honest, as a way to end it, but. Luckily, we have all of you here.
I think a lot of those words have reminded me of small things that can be made into bigger things, like nuggets. It's like it sort of implies something that's small that can be made bigger. And that makes me wonder, like, as books evolve and we start using technology, perhaps books could be that way. Like right now, we think of a book as something that doesn't evolve. Instead you have another edition or you have a next version or whatever. But what if books, instead of having one author, maybe multiple authors and books changing over time and glomming onto things, and becoming bigger and smaller, such that the book is different from one moment to another. If that ends up being the story or the book, then I like the idea of having something that sounds like a container. Although you could do some really weird things, like you could have a book change depending on the location of where you are. So say you're in a tropical climate. This is kind of like a dynamic NFT, for example. Say you're in a tropical climate and your intelligent book thing detects through GPS that you're in a tropical climate. Then there would add sort of a flavor to what you're reading to either indicate maybe something about the dialect used or something. It would somehow, the book might change itself, maybe with a little bit of AI, but not so much to wipe out the work of the author. And I think all of these ideas of what a future book or book-like thing might look like would affect what we might want to call it. But since we're giving it a name before it exists, we could be way off base. but that could be okay because I mean that would be an interesting etymological story in and of itself. Oh well, these people, back in the early days of the internet, they are early days of NFTs. They thought that the next version of a book would look like this. Ha ha ha! They were so wrong. Ha ha ha! But look here, it's in the etymology, so it's kind of interesting. Uh, I would be thinking along those lines. Think about ways that in order to no longer be a book but be a descendant of a book, think of ways in which the consumption of information that's mediated by the technology that we use, how, since the technology is changing over time, how that consumption will change over time, like the metaverse, where I haven't thought about the metaverse. Think of a book in the metaverse. And I don't know. I would try to think those and cause those to influence what I might call this thing.
Okay, I love this conversation. So, just in the process of hearing Indy and George speak, I came up with a couple more. And by the way, am I the only former stoner who nuggets just totally means like little pieces of weed? Little nugs. But anyway, uh, when you say nuggets, that's all I can picture is just a little bag of weed. But the words I came up with while you guys were talking were fjarn, which is Phyarn, bjarn, which is Byarn. Suddenly, it's all sounding very Swedish. Bjarn. And then I really like the words yarn and skein. Like those are two great words. Like in terms of like weaving and putting together a tapestry in the Web3 sense. So I came up with Zarn and Zine, which is Szein. And both of these, none of these are going to work, of course, because they're all based on like, looking at them and spelling. But okay, I want to hear from Cryptoversal also on this stuff, because I know you've spent a lot of time thinking about this.
I like George's idea of bastard books, but no, I like EtherWorks with the AE ligature, because then you can get specific. You can call it Ether books or Ether novels or Ether zines, or you could abbreviate it and just have the AE ligature with any of those things, and it doesn't say anything specific about the technology, so it's just open to just something different. But it's a group of a class of the next generation of works. That was what I was thinking going down this list.
The AE that you mentioned is called an ash, and that reminds me of that the name of Elon Musk's kid. Isn't it something like Ash seven something or other? It sounds like a robot, but when you look at the spelling, he's using the AE. He's using that ash. That's where that ash comes from. So if you had Ash in the name, or rather that Old English glyph, the ash, the A and the E stuck together. I guess maybe that could tie into Musk, but obviously Musk is just kind of a side figure, but he's such a big influence on thinking out of the box. I don't know if that would be a good or a bad thing.
If he has $43 billion to spend on it, maybe it's a good thing.
Yeah, that's right. He could tweet about it or X about it or whatever that's called, and instant fame.
Okay, little sidebar here, just since you brought up Elon Musk and X and tweeting. We have not been rugged today. Thank you so much for that, Elon. We have lots of gratitude for that. Also, I saw a very funny tweet by him yesterday where he was using Grok, which is the AI from X, and someone had asked, "Is Dune just a ripoff of Star Wars, or just a cheap ripoff of Star Wars?" And Grok, the XAI, came back and said, no, it's a very expensive ripoff, and it talks about how Dune was like took all the same stories and just changed the names, and then it said the reason why it was an expensive thing is because then Frank Herbert spent all of his money, all of his family's wealth to build a time machine so he could go back to 1965 and publish Dune before Star Wars was ever conceived of. And I just thought that was the most hilarious AI answer. It was so sarcastic, and it gave me some real respect for Elon's AI grok. But we can go back to talking about alternate names for books now. Just wanted to share that.
Rihanna, don't let me cut you off, please. I saw you unmute. But I think we very rapidly come to the same problem that Odd Writings was talking about, where like naming a thing before it exists and before its utilization has been manifested is sort of kind of like trying to invent an organic process, kind of like permaculture, I guess. And that was my begging the question in the group a little bit. And still, it is a worthwhile exercise. And this the final thing I'll say is that we've been working at Paged Out on refining what our core why is, the big reason why, the purpose that we exist and are all expending so much collective effort. We're also looking at what our core values are, and we've identified like 6 of them. They're like really solid, community, collaboration, ingenuity, reliability and responsibility, like all these really cool things that we want to be pillars of, and we want the assets to represent as well. So like not necessarily ephemeral. We want stuff to survive more than a year of technology growth. And so yeah, it's really interesting. What is in a name? For you Shakespeare lovers like Rihanna. So anyway, I love this discussion, and it could be moot, and it's still valuable, and I appreciate all of you entertaining it. Yeah. Sorry, Rihanna, for blabbing.
No, I agree. It's so amazing to be able to have this kind of conversation. And I did find my list, and I read through it a little bit while you guys were tossing around your ideas. And some of the stuff you guys were mentioning is on my list, but I'll go ahead and read my list anyway, just because it might be fun to hear. So, ha ha ha. So, I was looking at like the list is called BC literature, like blockchain literature, and I thought BC, that's really interesting, in the temporal element of the universe of the world kind of thing. But so literature on the blockchain, web words, codex, folio, biblio, weblio. I don't know, that's kind of weird. Uh, and then Libro or Librio. I don't know, some kind of morphing of alternate language for book. I think Libro is a Spanish for book. Tome, verse, script, quill, leaf, leaf, choir, Quire, opus, magnum opus. And then, of course, I talked a little bit about like digital token, digital badge, because we were also trying to figure out what can we replace the word NFT with. Literary link, lit link, literary block. And I think that, and then there was like a lit cube, like a cube has 6 sides. I don't know. Anyway, and so it was just really sort of an interesting exercise of all of these different thoughts. So that was on my list. Thanks.
So I think here's what you got to do now. Okay, so we have this podcast, right? Or this tweet, this thing we're doing right now that'll eventually turn into a podcast. We get that podcast, we save the URL to it. You make that an NFT. We create an NFT collection. This collection are all these words for the names of future books that we're talking about. And that way we can establish precedents. And if you happen to own the NFT of 50 years from now, one of your descendants actually own the NFT of something that actually became valuable, then hey, it's all on the blockchain and it's provable and all that kind of stuff. So turn this conversation into an NFT collection.
Oh, see, that's interesting because I've actually been looking at ways that we can do that. And I think we're going to start doing that at some point. I just need to get the time to like learn how to do the technology the right way. But it's going to be one more form of distribution to do that. I love all of this, you guys. And Riona, when you were like, but that's kind of weird. I did not think that was weird at all. I liked it. And so I have one more thing that came up, you guys, that I wanted to share, and that's that I looked up Skein, Skein, and interestingly, what came up as the sidebar, which has something to do with Skein, is hank. And apparently, a hank in the textile industry is a coiled, wrapped unit of yarn or twine, as opposed to other materials like thread or rope, as well as other forms such as ball, cones, bobbin, spool. So that gives us a whole new, like bobbins would be one, and a hank itself could be one. So a bobbin, a hank, these are words that aren't necessarily used all the time. And then, of course, I put a Z on hank just because I'm obsessed with Z's right at the moment. So a zank, and then I saw the word nuggets, and I was like, zank nuggets. Like, dank nuggets, dude. Let's go. The stoners are laughing. Everybody else is like, what the hell does that mean?
I'm
Zank
laughing my
nuggets.
ass. I'm laughing my ass off over here. This is such a ridiculous, wonderful conversation. I just want to put a laugh out there, out loud, like for real, because it's so crazy.
Thanks. And I do see Phil of Austin's joined us. Phil, you know the conversation we're having. Feel free to come up here and throw your contributions in, or to hitchhike on any of the ones that we've already have. And by the way, I just want to throw out this concept was something that I learned a long time ago in terms of it was in a corporate setting that I learned it, and it was called hitchhiking. And the idea of hitchhiking is when you're having a brainstorming session, it's open for everybody to take whatever ideas are thrown out to the group and hitchhike on them. That means grab them and take a ride with someone else's idea. None of these ideas are owned by anyone here. We are all hitchhiking together. So take the ride wherever it will take you. And hitchhiking rules. Phil, you're up.
Oh gosh, on the spot. Hello everyone. I'm more so just facilitating the conversation and trying to just get it started. I'm trying to build this thing with Robbie, and we're realizing like, oh crap, we don't have a name for this. So I'm like, okay, we need to start brainstorming names, and now we're talking about it on this fine show, which I am pleasantly surprised to find this afternoon, and excited to hear all of the great brainstorming and ideation. So I don't have anything other than I think a Zook kind of sounds pretty futuristic and silly. Zooks would be maybe fun to have. I got nothing else to contribute, but I will chime in and say what I like.
That's all we can ask. A Zook, I like the Zook too, and I like that you posted the Dr. Seuss reference to it. It was fun.
I mean, you would definitely know it's like a book, but it's like a weird spelling of a book. But I really liked what Odd Writings was talking about, like trying to think about the etymology. Can't talk, but I don't know how to make a container around this idea of what NFT books are currently and what they will be in the future. And even think through the process of how to name things. I'm terrible at naming anything. So depending on you guys, the creatives.
I got rugged.
We saw that. We tried to get you back up here as soon as possible. Glad you made it.
Yay, I'm unrugged. So another idea we haven't spoken of, it's kind of a trivial thing, but so the way languages evolve, you know, they have these certain rules. The linguists have come up with these various rules, and so they have this, you know, so Proto-Indo-European. They don't know what Indo-European sounded like, but knowing how languages evolve over time, they figure, well, this B probably used to be a P, and this, this voiced thing became unvoiced, and this, glottal stop did this and that or whatever. I don't know if we want to go to the extreme of actually thinking about that, but if you were to say the word book, say book, imagine people said the word book for, thousands of years, book, book, book. And maybe it would become Beck, but something smaller, shorter. But then there's too much technology we don't know about yet. This reminds me of kind of blog and vlog, and blog seemed to be something that just kind of came out of nowhere, I think, or something a log of something, a blog. But then vlog, that kind of, a video log. So I could see kind of how that changed. I don't know if we want to, I don't know. It's just something to think about.
So blog came from weblog. So early on, there were geeks like me that were, documenting their time on the web, and we called them weblogs. And then it just got shortened to blogs, which is a fun etymology in itself. Log being like a, captain's log kind of thing, because we are geeks. What about just I'll just shorten it to,
Did you say? Onomatopoeia for the win, like period, like that's it.
Yeah, I don't know how we spell that, but we just call it.
Maybe like a taboo.
Also, what's interesting, if you look at sci-fi and the earliest examples of, digital readout, like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy with the eponymous title of the thing, the book itself was a digital, instantly updated and perpetually updated resource with all the knowledge of how to survive, written by really witty authors. And it was a book, but no one cared about the format. And then there's also like the Star Trek universe. There's remarkably few books in the Star Wars universe. Like you never see people like reading really. It's always like, other things. But in Star Trek, there were a lot of readings on the devices that they used. And it would still be a book, which is also really interesting.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of what I was bringing up earlier, like Kleenex. When you think of a Kleenex, like it's actually just tissue paper, but everyone just says Kleenex now. And kind of the same with like Google. It's like I'm gonna go Google something. It's really you're just gonna go search the internet. So the name for something for like Googling came out of just the company that started it. So we still have books, but like it could be pages. I don't know.
Well, I found a portmanteau generator just now. And so those of us who are deep in English land, a portmanteau word is a word that's put together. So if you read, like the Jabberwocky was brillig in the slithy toves, gyre and gimble in the wabe. So slithy is a portmanteau word of lithe and slimy or slime. Anyway, and so I just put in like book, metaverse, web, page, and it came up with so many words that can be put together utilizing a smashing of these different things. And I'll actually share them at Page Dow because it might be really interesting to look at some of this, like pageverse, petaverse. I don't know, mage. I don't know. There's really some really cool things, and like bookverse, booktoverse. I don't know. Anyway, so I'll just share it because it really is meshing these words together, kind of like what George was saying. Like if there's a way to kind of borrow knowledge from the future and see what we can figure out. So that's really cool. I didn't even know that there was a portmanteau generator. I Googled it. Thanks, Phil.
Mm-hmm. I was just thinking about verse. So, I mean, the two meanings that I put behind it are like obviously like kind of lyrical and like a verse in a song and with a lot of writing like poetry, but also it's a part of a word, the universe, right? So like having a verse is a good word to put after anything, like page verse, vagabond verse.
Yeah,
Epic.
there's a group of poets, the verse, and that's basically where they got that idea, because universe versus universe.
Yeah, maybe they're just universes, is what you're creating, and that kind of like speaks to the metaverse as well. Like you're creating your own universe with your creative writing.
By the way, Riona, on your list, I very much disliked Pediverse because it makes me think of something bad done to children in a perverse way. So that's
I thought
bad,
that exact
bad,
thing.
just bad.
I thought that exact thing when I read it. I was like, yuck, why did I say that word? But I was just reading it and then I read it out loud and I'm like, yuck, I don't like how that sounds. So I agree with you 100%, George.
Branding nightmare.
I know we're almost at time too, CD and Rihanna, but Dylan for like 3 weeks went crazy on some new technologies created by our friends like at Cent, using bonding curves, basically minting concepts like the concept of a website, the concept of a thing. And recently Friend Tech allowed people to create spaces on bonding curves. I don't know how many people are into Friend Tech. It's a thing, I guess. But it could be interesting to take like our top 5 concepts and just make spaces on Friend Tech for those things and see what survives.
Interesting idea. Here's 3 more. Just so take verse and change it to the last 3 letters of the alphabet. Zers, yours, Zers. But none of them quite live up to. All right, you guys, we are just about out of time here. Actually, we're not out of time at all, but we just limit this to 1 hour because it keeps it more fun to have the limit on it. So we are going to end it on the hour mark, and here we are. So everybody who's on the stage, just open up your mic at the count of 3, throw a little aloha out to the world, and we will be back next week, same time, same place, completely different topics, or maybe we'll talk more about X. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Web3 Writers is brought to you by Vagabond Magazine and published on Apple Podcasts through the Substack app. You can find all the episodes on Apple Podcasts or at vagabond, vagobond.substack.com. Our theme music is composed by the amazingly talented Paolo Argento and brought to us courtesy of Pixabay. You can find the link in the show notes.